Good morning, St. Francis. It is Friday, May the 28th, 2021, Friday of the 8th week of the year. Coming to you again this morning, like I did a couple of weeks ago, from the Cloister Walk, the covered walkway that connects our school, the Franciscan School, the Siena Hall complex in front of me, and then behind me, the Thea Juniper Jacoba Bonaventure complex, so our upper school and our middle school. On this kind of not as humid morning today, but it is a nice, again, sunny morning here in Carolina as we get ready for the Memorial Day weekend. In our readings today, Sirach continues basically speaking about godly individuals and how they will be remembered, as well as, unfortunately, those who are not godly will not be remembered. And it goes so far as to say not be remembered as if they never existed. The importance about being a godly person, which isn't basically a person who does everything right, a person who follows all the rules correctly, but as a person who has this idea of the gospel in their minds, in their hearts, and trying to live as best they can with the sense of what it means to be a person of the gospel, a person who lives not just for him or herself, but a person who lives for others. So these people, these kinds of people, these godly people, are people who will be remembered forever. In the gospel from Mark, again, we have again this continuing journey of Jesus throughout the Holy Land, throughout the countryside of the Holy Land, making his way to Jerusalem. And it's very interesting, this one, where he encounters a fig tree that has no figs on it, and he's hungry. It is not the time for figs, so there wouldn't be any figs on the fig tree to begin with. But Jesus, because he was hungry, gets angry and does one of the few kinds of things that kind of show his not understanding of his divinity, or his kind of strange embrace of his divinity, by basically cursing the fig tree and telling the fig tree that it will never bear fruit again because it didn't have figs when the Son of God wanted figs. And then the apostles go into Jerusalem with Jesus. There's the exchange with the money changers in the temple, and he overturns the tables, etc., etc. But then he comes back out, leaving from Jerusalem and going back out into the countryside, and the fig tree has been withered to its roots. And Peter notices this. And again, the shock of that, the kind of pettiness of our Savior. Again, a tree that did not have figs in a time for it not to have figs gets cursed and dies because Jesus was hungry. Doesn't seem to make much sense at first. But then again, it's what Jesus seems to go on to say, because he does not talk necessarily about the fig tree having been withered, or or having died, or because it did not bring any kind of figs for Jesus to eat at this moment. What he basically talks about is the power of what believing in God can do, and that whole idea that if you have faith enough, you can move mountains. If you have faith enough, the impossible can become possible. Does that mean that Jesus' faith in making sure that a fig tree that didn't bear figs when he wanted it can be killed because of his faith in God, and his faith that God can work through him, can work through us also? That's not necessarily what Jesus is talking about, because as he ends this kind of little bit of a speech to the 12 as they're making their way out of Jerusalem, he talks about forgiveness. He talks about the power of faith in forgiveness, and that if we try to forgive one another as best as we can, we become even more conscious of those ways and those times in which God has forgiven us. Again, that forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, again, has its roots in the Gospel of Mark, and becomes part, of the Lord's Prayer, as it is remembered in the Gospels of Luke and of Matthew. There isn't necessarily a prayer, a Lord's Prayer movement or moment of Jesus teaching that to the apostles in Mark, as there is in Matthew and in Luke. But here we have the very important part, or a very important part, of the Lord's Prayer being spoken by Jesus as he and his apostles make their way out of Jerusalem. And that is the understanding of forgiveness. That a faith that can move mountains is a faith that can truly practice real, authentic forgiveness. That basically does not hold anything back or hold anything in our pocket to be used later, but a forgiveness that allows us to have that openness of heart to receive each other once again, even after we have done wrong and have hurt one another. With that understanding, may we always live this life as believers in a way that is as authentic and as true to what it is that we believe. And may the Lord give you peace.